Hi guys, just a quick look at some of the short game stuff that we did, the basic benchmark chip shot. I'm just going to play this through a little bit whilst I go over the key points, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail. We'll get the lines on the screen. So what we're trying to do here is create a basic system to use when you're chipping to try and eradicate some confusion and to give you a benchmark from which to work from. So every chip shot's different. You're going to have to land it in a different place on the green. The distance you're going to carry the golf ball as a percentage of the overall shot will be changing from shot to shot, from situation to situation. But what we need is some sort of way of making those decisions, justifying to ourselves or explaining to ourselves why we're positioning the ball in the manner that we are. You know, why have we moved it forward, why have we moved it back, why am I using a pitching wedge, why am I using a sand iron, etc. So we're trying to create some systematic approach. You can see each one of you here, if I could just keep that video playing on the left, you're both playing a basic pitching wedge style shot. You're trying to land, when you're doing that, on a flat lie coming from the fairway to a green that's relatively flat, playing standard firmness, speed, etc. The pitching wedge is going to give you 50% through the air and 50% along the ground. When chipping, as a general rule, we want to have the ankles together. We want to have the ball in the middle of the stance. We'd like to have the shaft leaning 5 to 10 degrees forwards at address, and we would want to try and return the shaft roughly to that position through impact. We would have the weight favouring the lead leg, 55-45. As a general rule, that can change from shot to shot, but as a general rule, again, that will be my preference. We're going to let the length of swing dictate the length of shot. We can then start to add as many variables as we like. Some players are very good at moving the ball forward in the stance and back in the stance, and as a result are able to use one club. Other players are more comfortable with keeping the setup pretty standard and changing clubs. There are benefits and pitfalls to both. The moving around the ball position with one club, I think, is a great way of practicing. Really develops your skill levels, starts to introduce more imagination into your practice. However, I also feel that that's something that a lot of players who, when you go out on a golf course, if you're not playing a lot and you're not practicing a lot, so like yourselves, you're busy at work, it can be quite difficult to do when out on a golf course. So I think the safer option for guys like yourself is to practice that way, but then when you play, if you're comfortable, go out, keep your basic stance the same, change the club to give you the shots that you want. You may want to add a little bit of ball back or ball forward on occasion, depending on the lie, but as a general rule, I would keep as much as you can the same every time you play, and vary the clubs that you use. Personally, I sort of flit around between the two. Some days I'm pretty happy to move the ball around in the stance and use one club, and other times I just feel comfortable keeping my setup pretty standard and moving the ball around. As long as I've got a benchmark to go to when I'm practicing and I understand the variables, I don't see the issue with using either approach. So why do we do what we do? We just take it back to your setup positions. Okay, so what we have is positioning the feet together moves the centre of the swing, beg your pardon, moves the centre of the swing ahead of the golf ball, which makes it very easy to now make solid contact. So we're hitting the golf ball with a descending blow. Most people are creating solid contact by moving the ball further and further back, pushing the hands further and further forward, and creating excessive shaft lean. And the problem with that is, whilst you make good contact, or on occasion you make good contact, if you're slightly out with your strike, you're engaging the leading edge of the club, so that's going to produce a shot that's very heavy, so it's not a very forgiving way to chip. And you're also taking a hell of a lot of loft off the golf club. By standing the way we're standing, with the feet together, the ball in the middle, the shaft leaning forward 5 or 10 degrees, what we're actually doing is ensuring that we've got good contact, making sure that if we don't quite time the release, if you will, correctly, and we bottom out fractionally behind the ball, which is a distinct possibility, we've got sufficient bounce on to give us some forgiveness. But more importantly, we're going to keep the loft on the golf club. We spoke on the day about the shot that CC had to the right hand side of the 10th hole, which was our first hole of your 9-hole assessment, and CC was trying to play a chip shot over a bunker with a setup that was ball back, handle forward, taking a lot of loft off the golf club, which meant it was completely inappropriate for the situation you're in. However, you've been told that that's how you should chip, and therefore, had no other point of reference. Now that we understand that, to make solid contact, if we put the ankles closer together, the low points move forward, we can now start to have a little bit more of an appropriate loft on the club face while still making contact. So trying to play the ball back all the time, the handle forward, is unrealistic. That's going to produce very low shots, and then the player starts to scoop to try and add some lofted impact. So, pitching wedge is going to give us 50-50, land it halfway, run it halfway. The ankles together and the ball in the middle of the stance ensures that we're going to hit the golf ball with a slight descending blow. Shaft leaning 5 to 10 degrees forward means that we've got, because of the ball position, we're descending onto the golf ball. Because of the handle location, we've got a little bit of bounce on the sole of the golf club. We're not going to dig in excessively, and we've got sufficient loft on the club face. The length of swing is always going to dictate the length of shot. The situation that you are in will dictate what sort of trajectory that you want. You can then use the ball moving forward or back, or changing club to achieve the sort of trajectory you want. And the main thing then is, during the swing, as you're both demonstrating here, keep a nice, smooth, accelerating stroke. No excesses. It doesn't need to be excessively wristy. And on the flip side of that, it doesn't need to be very stiff in the wrists. Just, we were talking about treating it as an underarm throwing action. That would produce a little bit of arm swing, a little bit of wrist hinge, and help you keep your speed and your rhythm up throughout the stroke.